Welcome back to the advanced track of Telium Summer School, the future of data and AI. I'm Marinda Hillier. Today's session, Journey Orchestration with Traditional AI, dives into the practical application of AI to customer experience. You'll hear from Dustin and Drew Halsch, Telium's Director of Solutions Consulting, as they walk through how machine learning can fuel dynamic, data-driven journeys from propensity modeling for real-time product recommendations. They'll also outline the 4 levels of AI maturity and show you how to evolve from manual, rules-based tactics to intelligent automation, all built on a foundation of clean, consented data. Let's jump in.
Hello and welcome again to our AI Masterclass series. I'm Dustin Horning, and I have with me today Drew Halsch, who started at Telium around the same time as I did, where he's now the Director of Solutions Consulting here at Telium and an expert in this field. I'm really excited to get his take on this topic. Welcome, Drew.
Thank you, Dustin. Glad to be here and excited to be talking about this session today and be a part of this AI Masterclass event. And so, to give a little bit of background, yeah, as Dustin said, we started right around 7 years ago here at Telium, and we've helped out organizations implement their data strategy across their different channels to have a better customer experience. And of course, during that time, AI has risen and grown in popularity and in technology improvement, and it's really changing the way in which our customers are utilizing our Telium today, but also utilizing data across their infrastructure and changing the way in which they tailor the customer experience and become more thoughtful about what experience the customer is actually having. So excited to be a part of this session today.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Drew and I worked together. We were assigned on some of our first customers together, really cut our teeth here. And then he's just continued to grow in his knowledge and expertise. So he's going to be a great voice here. As a reminder, this is actually session 3 in our AI Masterclass series. So far, we talked with Jeff about setting the industry stage. What are the patterns and expectations and pressures that we're seeing that is driving this AI adoption? We talked with Rob about data collection best practices, how to have a good foundation that's going to be so critical in anything you want to do with AI moving forward. But these next 2 sessions I'm really excited about. I think this is really the meat of why we want to have these AI masterclasses. We are getting into the practical application of AI in regards to customer experience and how to use customer data with AI to really make an impact on your business. So with that, let's jump right into your content, Drew.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Lesson number 3, Journey Orchestration with Enterprise ML. As you heard from both Dustin and I, we've worked together for a long time, but here are beautiful faces directly on a slide in case you forgot exactly what we did. But moving forward, let's talk about the 2 different categories that we typically see when customers are implementing AI into their organization. So ultimately, we do have this enterprise ML category or data-driven decisioning. And this has existed for some time, but the application of it and the use of it is actually risen in recent years. But this allows us to analyze data and follow rules to either make predictions or classifications or recommendations or next best actions on a large data set to actually tailor the customer experience. The generative AI is what has gained popularity because of the technology increases that have happened in the past 5 years. This allows for content generation from a specific model that is learned on large amounts of data sets and actually can generate something new. So for today's session, we're going to focus in on enterprise ML, and you'll see you have to stick around for session number 4 to learn about generative AI. But both of them, as you'll see, are being incorporated into the customer journey. As we look and compare these 2 different categories, we can think of these as different applications of AI, and they are also going to have different data needs within the AI. So this enterprise ML category is going to have different use cases, such as fraud detection or propensity or scoring and recommendations, and you're going to need different data needs to actually power these use cases. They're going to be structured and labeled data in order to create this output based on the decision. Additionally, knowing that this is a Telium lesson, our role within this as a Telium infrastructure changes a bit in the way in which we applied directly within the architecture. And you'll actually see some of this today. Then ultimately, the outcome is kind of a prediction score or something to segment and take action upon. From a generative AI perspective, which will be the next session, this is really where it comes into chat or personalized content and recommended search. And this actually has different data needs, maybe broader context and the needs natural language processing. And Tilium's role in this is functioning differently. Will be context that we're providing to these specific vendors, as well as memory or visitor intent to actually generative AI systems. And a lot of the times this includes such as passing visitor contacts into RAG or retrieval augmented generation style chatbot to actually be able to personalize and provide context to that information that we're returning back or generating from the generative AI output. So as you see, both of them are solving more complex use cases that are on the market, but they're all functioning a little bit differently. So as we focus in, we'll focus in directly on enterprise ML, and really what we wanted to walk you through today is different approaches upon the AI maturity journey with enterprise ML so that you can see maybe I don't need to jump right away to the farthest step, but I can take steps along the way to start incorporating AI into my use cases that I have deployed today. So if we talk about the path to an AI maturity with Telium, we focus in on enterprise ML. The biggest part is, are we doing the use case that we're talking about today without ML or without machine learning or without AI itself? The buzzwords around this is like, are we doing this or do we need to incorporate this in into our organization? But ultimately, from a foundational perspective, are you doing the basics? Are you creating rule-based audiences and targeting individuals and hopefully increasing your return on ad spend or increasing conversions that ultimately are leading value to your organization? So I always like to remind, if we're talking about some AI cart abandonment experiments, well, are we doing cart abandonment and are we measuring that as a baseline to see what is the value of my AI project that I'm implementing internally? So really think of this as level one. Level two is let's actually take the use cases which are existing today, our bench line, and let's start to utilize auto ML tools, such as for propensity scores or automatic recommendations. These auto ML tools are in market today. They leverage your existing data set and they just utilize the models that they have out of the box. And then they can actually create some sort of output that then you can go use in your customer experience. An example of this is with Telium Predict in our auto propensity scoring capability that sits on top of your data set and it provides an outcome based on the models we use today. The next level is let's take this a step further. Maybe we want to actually deploy custom models or tune out of the box custom models a bit further. And so here within level three, you may be externally utilizing some sort of model within a data warehouse or a data cloud that allows you to actually take the data set in which your organization is providing that view to either the customer 360 or any data set and actually tune a custom model directly to your organization. Now, this external model ingestion allows you to take the output of that insight that you're getting from that machine learning model and then actually go use it to create a better customer experience. So we really see this as level three. And in level four, we really see this as real-time edge-based recommendations based on actual real-time AI. This is something where we see the most advanced organizations utilizing this approach, being that it actually provides quite an incredible experience that can actually create the conversion in the moment, but at the same time, it requires extra steps to get to. So as an organization, you may say, are we doing the foundational things today? But in the future, we want to do real-time AI experiences, but there's a few steps along the way in which you can achieve quickly to start incorporating this AI approach into your organization. And ultimately, the biggest part that we always see as a talk track is this clean consented data across maturity will allow you to be agile in the way in which you achieve your different levels of AI maturity.
I love the way you've broken this down, Drew. That clean consented data, that's exactly what Rob and I spent a lot of time talking about. So check out session 2 if you want some more info on that. Just with this, I think enterprise ML versus generative AI. Generative AI, you get people sharing those images and videos or screenshots of something funny their chatbot said. And so it's got a lot of buzz and visibility around it. But enterprise ML is really that workhorse. This is putting in the work behind the scenes all the time, tweaking these little scores or preferences so that these experiences are really changing. And so I think it's easy to overlook, but at your peril if you do. And this breakdown of the levels really reminds me of, if I compare it back to how we've evolved our navigational technology. Back in the day when I was first driving, we had Thomas Guide maps that we'd sit in our car and we'd have to flip through and find the address you wanted. And you could come up with this manual rules-based system of, okay, turn left here, turn right here, based on this kind of static data. as kind of a level one. But then the next evolution was that we got MapQuest and these other online portals where you could put in your starting point and your destination, and it would come up with a digital map that you could print, and it was dynamic. But you still had to do that prep work ahead of time. You had to bring it with you and know where you wanted to go. And then it really all changed when we got those the in-car navs, the kind of GPS managed things where it could know exactly where you were and you'd put in your location and go there. But it still didn't have that moment awareness of anything else going on. If there was traffic or other things, you really had to navigate that yourself. But now with the map technology that we have with Google Maps and Apple Maps and Waze, they're constantly getting data from you, from the drivers around you, what they've seen in front of you, what's going on, in order to consistently be giving you the newest, greatest directions based on everything that's changing in the world. And that's really what we're trying to unlock with this level 4 real-time AI.
Yeah, and that's just such a perfect example for it to talk about the physical way in which, or the manual way in which we made decisions of how to get to a destination. And now in the future, we're actually doing a lot less manual work, but rather just letting data decide for us and then applying that logic and following the rules exactly.
That's right. Yeah, here's my destination. You tell me how to get there. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's interesting to even think about how we're interacting with the maps today, right? So before you'd actually have a physical map, then it went digital, which it was all touch. In the future, now it's going to say, hey, it's the time of day where the workers just finish up. Are you ready to go back to your house?
Mhm.
You're just going to use your voice to say, yeah, start directions.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same approach and the exact same theory around AI maturity for an individual use case is exactly that utilizing a map in today's world.
Yeah.
So as we dive into each of these, we want to actually get specific into each of these examples of the level so you can start to apply maybe a use case across them and get a little bit more tactical with it. So from a foundational rules-based audience, this is your standard audience that you have in many of your standard audience builders today. You want to be able to collect and unify the data in real time. You then will define an audience such as my cart abandoners are someone who added product to cart but didn't complete within a certain time frame. And then you want to trigger to downstream channels such as email, paid media, SMS, on-site personalization, right? Any channel where the customer experience needs to be tailored based on this engagement. This is the foundation. We need to create benchmarks for ourselves so that we can be measuring our success within our AI deployments moving forward. If we look at from a more visual perspective, right, this is kind of the standard data flow that maybe many of you familiar with Telium have seen before, which is we have our customer interactions over on our left. We're unifying those directly into a real-time visitor profile. Your user that's inside of the Telium platform, you go create an audience segmentation and push that segmentation out to any of your customer experience tools. And then this is running in an automated approach for any cart abandonment that happens to your website. This, I always think, is a foundational thing, and it's always good to remind ourselves that in this age of AI, is are we doing the basics well to actually measure what is the impact of AI, and are we getting the right value from it as an organization?
Yeah, and this foundational level now lets you switch your framework. If this is where you're at today as a business, you're building those rules. You no longer have to say, no, we're not doing any AI initiatives. You can say, we're actually laying the foundation for an AI initiative. I'm setting what the template's going to look like for what this AI is going to go replace eventually.
That is spot on. The data is always necessary to do the foundational things, and then that's how we build upon with our AI approach. So let's take this to the next level, right? And so now you have your data flowing, you have your use case live. Let's go start applying maybe an auto ML capability on top of that. So for this auto ML level 2, in this case, we're utilizing propensity scoring as the example. Here we want to train an auto ML tool, just as in this case, a binary classification, a true or false outcome, such as what is the likelihood that someone's going to purchase in the next 7 days? So now we can take an auto ML tool, it'll be tailored to that data set, and we can apply it to all those cart abandoners. And we can say, what are the scores for all these cart abandoners? Are they likely to purchase in the next 7 days or unlikely to purchase? And ultimately, as an end user, you can start to create a threshold. Do we have someone who's highly likely to actually convert? Do we have someone who's in the medium range that's likely to convert, or in the low range of propensity for likely to convert? And at this point, now we can actually make decisions as the end user that's creating the customer experience or creating an offer to try to get someone to convert. Let's start to tailor this offer. From a high-end perspective, maybe we do nothing. We say, hey, there's a good chance that these individuals are going to convert. So maybe we just send them a reminder, but we don't offer a discount. For those in the middle range, those are the ones truly on the edge, right? They're going to be the biggest opportunity to either not convert or convert because they're truly our machine learning is telling us we're unsure, which way they're actually going to go. In this case, this is where we should provide an offer, right? Let's go make sure to actually get them to convert, and maybe that offer will be the tipping point to make sure they convert versus not convert. On the low propensity, this is you have full capability of deciding or even testing. From a low propensity perspective, maybe we say, hey, let's not spend our money on this individuals. Let's not advertise to them because that's wasted ad dollars. At the same time, if you have nothing to lose, maybe you do offer something completely different or change the strategy to see, hey, can I increase the conversion rate of these low propensity users? And you can be creative and utilize, hey, how do we actually target these users and how do we make them actually convert? So as you see here, there's a clear way in applying rules to actually create a better tailored audience in distinct areas around this cart abandoner use case. Here, from a summary perspective, we've taken that same data flow, but now we've incorporated an AutoML tool sitting on top of that data set. With a tool like Telium, it's already collecting and unifying that data together. A tool like Telium Predict or any other AutoML tool will then be applied to that clean data set, utilizing their own out-of-the-box models, and then creating predictive attributes that can be used in your audience creation. Ultimately, this is going to be activated across your customer experience channels that are now making a more tailored decision around, should we target this individual? Should we show an offer to this individual? Or should we not do anything to this individual because they're unlikely to convert, right? You get to make the decisions based on this outcome from an AutoML tool. The next one, if we take it a step further, is let's actually utilize an external system. Many organizations, especially some of the larger ones that we see, there's going to have some sort of data science team that is already in place today. And most of the time, this data science team is creating amazing insights. They have data that they're being populated into a data warehouse, a data cloud, a data lake, right? Whatever tools you may own. And this could be either Snowflake, AWS, Azure, Databricks, right? These exist on the market today. And ultimately, those tools have ML capabilities, whether it's out-of-the-box models provided for them or the custom models that you bring to those tools. Your data science teams or any just tinkerers within your organizations are trying to create insights from that. Well, ultimately, as a user and as someone who's focused on creating a better customer experience, part of it is unlocking the insights in which those teams are creating and making use of those insights. So from an application perspective, one, we want to make sure that we're tracking and unifying the data together like we have in every use case. But then we can send to that data warehouse with that AI capabilities. You then, from within that data warehouse, you're going to generate some sort of propensity score directly with either the package models or the custom models within that data warehouse, where you're able to tune them a bit more than you would an AutoML tool and truly customize for your business and your data set in which you're ingesting. And then ultimately, the output of those scores can then be brought back in to an audience building system, enrich the visitor profile, and then you can go make use of that specific logic into the audience and go activate upon those. Right. So now we're building custom models and doing so in our data warehouse, our data clouds, which are very good at utilizing ML and having custom and packaged models to offer. And now we're utilizing them in our targeting and in our customer experience. What this looks like from a data flow perspective is, as you see, we're having pretty consistencies on what are we doing from a data collection, a unification, and a distribution perspective. But here in the middle, you'll see that after the unification happens, we want to go make sure to update that AI data warehouse or data lake or data cloud. And then within that, you're going to run a propensity model or any model that you choose on that data set and then return that output and back to the user profile to unify it and actually take action upon it. This is the key step that we see a lot of organizations not taking yet. Many of the times we're creating an insight, but we're not taking action on the outcome of that insight. So this is a key step, is connecting this AI data warehouse to an audience build and or an action tool that allows us to unify it to a user and then go tailor the customer experience beyond this. It's allowing you to actually deploy this AI model in your different channels and create a better customer experience. Right? So this is level 3. Right? We're kind of building upon each other on each of these levels.
And one quick sub step that I've seen some customers take, if they are having trouble connecting that model score directly back into their customer experience, is they can still evaluate that output, and that model may tell them, hey, we see that when this value is here, we correlate that to a high score, or these sets of values. And then you go back and you do step 1 again. Now you go and build a rules-based version based on what that model has been able to tell you about your data.
Exactly that, right? There's different kind of sub-levels within each of these levels.
For
You can
sure.
start to
We could
tailor.
dissect it endlessly.
Exactly, exactly. Great. So now we've made it to level three. This is, building upon the foundation. Now you say, I want real-time edge-based execution, right? Kind of the holy grail for enterprise ML. But with this is a little bit more difficult, but it is still possible, right? Organizations are doing this today and actually deploying it with Telium. So this real-time AI or edge-based model execution, really what it is we're hosting a trained model on the edge or on a server that allows us to interact with that trained model on an individual basis and actually receive a score from that model. So what we do specifically is we train a model on a historical data set. We'll then deploy the model to a model serving API endpoint, right? So this can be in the same type of AI database or AI infrastructure that exists. So you have your database and your model serving endpoint, and you deploy the model to the endpoint. Now, whenever a user interacts or qualifies for a specific request, we can actually go trigger a serverless function to that API endpoint. Run that trained model on either the whole data set or a subset of the data set, and it'll return back a score that you'll then associate to that individual, and then you can go deploy that score to actually create a better customer experience. So what does this look like, right? So this is what we do. What does this exactly look like? Is as you'll see, we're taking the similar data flow, we're just adding an extra layer to allow it to be a real-time integration. Here, you'll actually have your AI database and your model serving endpoint. But in your AI training database, this is where you're going to train the model and refine it and then be able to deploy this model. This model is going to be deployed on a model serving endpoint, right? And so this API is going to actually host the model and it's going to provide an API endpoint of the propensity model. At this point, Tim can easily go trigger out to that API endpoint with a visitor profile. It'll run through the model in about 100 milliseconds, and then it'll output a score back into Telium that then you can use. This becomes so powerful in that in session, when someone is delaying or when someone has reached a certain behavior, we're able to go deploy a real-time model and get a real-time AI output to actually help us make a decision in the moment. We have customers doing this today for this in-session personalization. And so this infrastructure allows us to kind of scale. You can start with one use case, and once we've set this up, you can go deploy to many different use cases because now it's the same system, right? This is kind of the furthest level. It's not where you have to start at by any means, but it's also some of the more exciting things that our customers are doing, utilizing kind of this AI maturity approach.
Yeah, this one's so exciting when we see it in the wild, getting that, multiple scores and that score building as we get more behavioral to then change that experience specifically for that customer in such an intelligent way.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. And to kind of recap on these different levels as we've taken you through the approach on how to implement, let's take this cart abandonment use case and let's walk you again through exactly each of these approaches. From this first foundational level, right, we're defining rules and we're leveraging our existing infrastructure to activate cart abandoners across channel. When we take it to level two, we're taking an auto ML tool that's going to take that cart abandoner audience and all of their data that's associated to them, and it's going to give us some sort of score. Are they likely, middle hood likely, or unlikely to convert? And then you, as a user, can actually make the decision. Do I want to target this individual? Do I want to give an offer? Or should I suppress this individual because they're unlikely? In level three, we're taking your own infrastructure that exists, or if you're looking to add one in the future, but your infrastructure within your data warehouse or your data lake or database, and you're utilizing those out of the box and models or your individual custom models to truly refine the model for your business and do the same approach where you have your cart abandoner audience, their corresponding data, and you're able to truly tailor and activate upon these users based on any data and that is being run through that model. So this is really kind of the level three. On level four, this real-time AI this may change the actual use case itself. With this cart abandoner example, we're doing everything after they've left the website, right? And we're now applying AI directly to it. In session, say if this user is delaying on the cart page, and we know that, hey, they're hesitating in some sort of fashion. In real time, we could run that profile and all the corresponding elements through this model that's hosted on this model server in hundreds of milliseconds, return back a score to say, hey, are they likely to convert? Cool, don't do anything. Like let them go convert in session. Are they the middle likelihood or unlikely? Great. Maybe for the middle likelihood, let's show a 10% offer. If they're truly unlikely to convert and they're on the cart page, they've added something to cart, all right, maybe we actually give a deeper discount because they're in session. These are the ones that are actually have very little chance to convert, but maybe we can actually go tailor them. And by doing this, you can truly test on the different brackets of how well someone is converting based on that propensity score that's actually happening. And are we able to tip the edge and get them to convert while they're in session? So applying it to a single use case, you can see how the differences of AI can be applied on the different approaches, but also what is the value to them, or like what is the value to the business across each of these? When you take this a step further and you want to know, hey, give me some details around this, right? We're reading, model ingestion, propensity score, real time. Some of the details around this is how do we score this from a use case perspective, right? Or what's the timing for these? So within the first level, there's no delay, right? We're just simply taking a logic, utilizing the logic, activating upon it. Within the second one, there's going to be a little bit of delay with this auto ML, right? We're going to make sure the features are captured in the right way. We're going to then run it through an output or score, and then we're going to get that output and go activate upon it. So an auto ML tool can run pretty fast. When we talk about this integration across different systems, you're going to have a more refined model that's specifically for your business, but there's going to be some delays in terms of the updates of the features or the scoring. And when you're actually returning the scores back to activation channels, there's going to be a little bit of delay. But it's after the end of session, so at the same time, the delay is not a big issue, right? Because we're actually sending it and activating at the end of the session. The real-time one, we're actually shortening all of this processing. There's no delay in generating the features. There's no delay in actually running it through the model and getting the score back, and no delay in the actions itself. So while there may be a level of complexity that's set up from the real-time edge-based model execution level, there's the time to actually activate upon those scores is shortened and actually usable within that 100 millisecond category. So as you can see, when you're comparing these differences, there's going to be easier ways to deploy AI within your organization and some more complex ways, and they all have different benefits in terms of what they're providing. And ultimately, it's up to you as an organization to start testing and iterating and seeing what's going to work and what's going to drive the most value for your organization.
Yep, that's said exactly right. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You got to take that first step, let that momentum build on what's available to you based on these different maturity levels that Drew's done such a great job laying out. And now, no matter where you're at, you can see what that next framework is and why it's important to continue to build on that, because that end result of having such an intelligent system with no lag time in between is able to really be impactful on your customer experiences. And so we all want to end up there.
Yep, great. And so as you know, this has just been one of the many lessons that you've received in overall on this AI masterclass. And if you do have additional questions, please reach out to your Telium representative. And I think we actually will be hosting a Q&A. So if you're listening in and you want to have some specific answers, we'll do some sort of live Q&A where we'll help answer all those questions.
Great. Well, Drew, I've really appreciated hearing all you had to say on this topic. I'm sure our audience did as well, and appreciate the plug on both the upcoming sessions and the upcoming Q&A. So you've heard it all already. So thank you again for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for watching Lesson 3. If you're ready to move beyond predictive scores and real-time rules, get ready for what's next. In Lesson 4, Leveling Up Generative AI, we'll explore how brands are using Gen AI to create conversational experiences and personalize content at scale. See you next week.